I think official scoring is a joke, to be honest. There's no consistency whatsoever, but there's nothing we can do about it. And it does affect fantasy because...
What are you cackling about over there?
Official scoring is a joke.
This is the Fantasy Focus Baseball Podcast. Here are your hosts, Tristan Cockcroft and Eric Karabell.
Hi there, and welcome to Fantasy Focus Baseball. It's Thursday, May 15th, 2014, the Ides of May. I'm Eric Karabell. That's Tristan H. Cockcroft. He's in Bucolic, Bristol today with Jay behind the glass. We'll have Mark Simon coming up a little bit later. And Tristan, I know you love it there. Play staying there every night. David Ortiz, he's so great, he gets hits even when he's not playing. If only we could all do that, right?
Yeah. Not only that, back-to-back days with 2 home runs, but that's impressive. Hits without even playing for him.
He loves playing in Minnesota. That's one thing. And I think it might be partly because he used to play for the Twins, and they gave up on him and didn't like him anymore.
What, are you saying he's angry?
Yeah, it's like that curse thing where we say, "Oh, you're not hitting, Alan Craig. Start hitting." Well, with Ortiz, it's like, I'm playing the Twins, huh? Okay, they gave up on me.
Everybody's angry about their former teams. I think that might come up in a little bit.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Well, now we're going to be happy, except everybody's hurt. So let's get to the news. And on our daily injury update, it's the guy who is 10th in games played in the last 5 years. He hurt his thumb. He dislocated his left thumb. And I expect at some point today, Tampa Bay Rays everything. Ben Zobrist will be placed on the disabled list. He'll miss a few weeks. And just more proof that nobody is safe. 10th in games played over the last 5 years. And now he's out. And I actually wrote my blog today about how Zobrist is actually a little bit overrated statistically. I mean, it's basically the versatility angle versus what he provides actually for your fantasy team in terms of stats. He's not going to provide anything probably for the next couple of weeks. But I noticed in your rankings on Wednesday, Zobrist was barely in your top 100. I suspect if he had hurt his thumb the day before, he wouldn't be in your top 100 at all. But this is a guy who was drafted 61st overall. So something doesn't jibe here when it comes to Ben Zobrist, right?
He's one of those kind of in a no man's land when it comes to rankings. I'm being perfectly honest with you. And I looked at him before the season. I wasn't all that impressed. I actually think he's been trending downwards for a couple of years, and last year's numbers played into that. But it was almost impossible to push him out of the top 100 just because of the positions he plays. He's such a rare character who provides a decent amount of homers, a decent amount of steals, not an exceptional total in either one, and is a good walker. So in those on-base percentage leagues, he gets a nice little benefit, and points leagues as well. I kind of wanted him out of the top 100. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
See, he's on pace for 12 homers and 12 steals, which is not special. The only reason he's ranked where he is and drafted where he is because he can play second, short, and outfield, which is helpful. It does, move a guy up. It's not position scarcity; it's versatility. Mm-hmm. But now, I like him, but he's not as good as.
Do you think there's something to the value of stability at 3 different positions like that? I mean, I feel like there's something to be said for the safety of a guy is good enough to stay in a lineup, occupies a difficult spot. You don't have to deal with going to the waivers. You think that actually warrants extra value?
I think it warrants some, but I think we've given him a little too much. Like, he's not going to be a top 100 guy next year. Right? It's finally time. He will leave the top 100. What did you think of his teammate, Jake Odorizzi? We talked about him yesterday, and I said I'm definitely using him at Seattle. I didn't expect him to go 6 innings, allow only 1 hit, and the hit came in, the last at-bat. 7 more strikeouts. He has 18 strikeouts in his last 11 innings, all scoreless. When a guy is so bad, and then all of a sudden he's so good, but we did like him before the season, are we all of a sudden on the like train?
I was very surprised that you wanted to use him in this game, and I remember I said I just liked the matchup on paper. I didn't like what he had been doing lately, and that's the maddening problem with Jake Odorizzi. Now, he's still working with the adjustment to that splitter change, the thing, or what was it, thing 2, since Alex Cobb has thing 1. So I do expect some up and down from him. I think people are going to jump on the bandwagon now, and they're going to get burned for it when there's a bad matchup coming.
Except I don't think there is. He's a 2-start guy next week.
They're home games, I think, for one.
Yeah, actually his next outing is home against Oakland, which is a team that hits, but not in their place. I don't know. That's interesting. It's interesting whether you want to use him or not. I'll probably use him. I have him in our 19-team auction league that I'm not going to win. And I'll probably activate him. But I didn't have him active this week. I mean, why would you? He had been so bad.
I had to have him active in labor. 12-team AL only. You kind of have to have Jake Odorizzi active.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's a good thing, too, because that entire staff has Texas Rangers pitchers.
See, now, I would have used, not only would I would have used Odorizzi, it's nice how you and me differ on this because we give different advice for people and they can decide what they want. I would have had Doug Fisher active as well at Arizona, and you said you wouldn't have done it.
Yep.
Fisher pitched great. Veteran guy I like.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember who you liked as a starting pitcher and whether he...
Odorizzi, by the way, second start. Sorry to take us back to that Boston at home. That was the other thing that I didn't like.
Yeah, maybe I don't know.
Yesterday,
maybe not.
there was another guy who I remember pitched pretty well, so I got one of them right. One for 1,000.
Hamill was rained out, so that didn't matter. You see, now, like, here's why streaming.
Oh, Garrett Richards. Garrett Richards over AJ Burnett.
Yeah, I would have used Garrett Richards. Did I say Richards?
No, you said Burnett over Richards.
Look, I'm in now on Richards. That was great.
Hey, Garrett Richards, 6 of his 8 starts so far are on the road. Has the third best performance by any Angels pitchers in road games in their history. In their first 8 starts, his ERA is the third best on the road in those first 8. And yes, I know I'm getting geeky, like at night when there's like a half moon or something.
No, that's a good stat. I mean,
it's really slicing the pie down thin, but
he's a different pitcher.
It's historical. I mean, his home numbers are terrible though.
And he didn't walk anybody. Well, I don't care about his numbers. I don't care about his numbers before this year. I honestly don't.
No, I mean, in 2 starts at home, it's like a 5.60 ERA.
Okay, but I'm not going with a sample.
It's going way down next week.
Garrett Richards should be in your top 50 at this point. A lot of strikeouts. Didn't walk anybody yesterday.
Wait a minute.
Come on.
No. I'm calling you out on this one. That we talked a little bit about Garrett Richards, and you said he throws too hard.
To see.
He throws too hard.
That's only meaning that he's going to get hurt. And we have no scientific, we have no idea for sure whether that means he's going to get hurt just because he's one of the hardest throwers in baseball.
But would that concern you enough to say, maybe I shouldn't go all in on the top 50? That's why I raised the question.
No, because there's so much depth, I would just pick him up and use him, and if he gets hurt in a month, then look for somebody else.
Are you trying to say the pitchers are getting hurt this year?
Well, we had 2 more at the DL yesterday. Ugh. I mean, Dylan G of the Mets. There was nothing wrong with Dylan G.
I don't get that.
With him.
I don't get that.
And now he's in the DL with a latch strain, so it's not an elbow. With Martin Perez, it's an elbow. He's going to have Tommy John probably. I mean, amazing. This was one of your sleepers. He pitched so well in April.
Yeah.
Then the wheels fell off in May because he was obviously, hurting. His elbow was hurt. And now he's in the DL. He's done probably.
Yep.
Matt Harrison's probably done. I don't know how Texas is going to get through this season.
I feel for Matt Harrison. To have surgery for that. It's a career-threatening injury. It's a shame because of what he's had to deal with in the past 2 years.
Carlos Gomez of the Brewers has a sore back, so he's going to serve his 3-game suspension. The timing couldn't be better. So he'll be ready to play. At some point this weekend. 3 games there. Anything else in the news that you definitely want to get to? We'll do a closer carousel coming up. I mean, David Ortiz, as we joked about, he gets the hit from the Yu Darvish game.
Yep.
So it doesn't really change things all that much. I think official scoring is a joke, to be honest. There's no consistency whatsoever, but there's nothing we can do about it, and it does affect fantasy because.
What are you cackling about over there?
Official scoring's a joke. I was just adding the laugh.
Are you trying to say they made the wrong call in the first place?
No, he doesn't even know
what
he's
laughing.
I'm just laughing.
Everybody loves.
There's a joke. I'm laughing.
He just heard a joke, and that's it. He didn't even know what it was about.
By the way, I'll tell you another joke was anybody who faces Masahiro Tanaka.
Right, he is good.
Come on, Jay, laugh at that too. That was a great joke.
I don't know if you rank him well enough. I don't know where you need to rank.
Wait! You don't think I rank him well enough? Wow. Okay. Well, let's talk a little about that one because it was 35th overall among all players and among starters. I think it was either 8th or 9th. I had him this week.
You have 9, but I wonder. To me personally, yes, we've exalted him in 6 weeks to unbelievable levels. If I'm drafting today, would I take Price or Tanaka? Would I take Greinke or Tanaka? Cliff Lee's never going to win. He's not going to win on this team. The Phillies are last.
Come on, you hate wins.
I do, but I mean, I think we can reasonably say that Cliff Lee has no shot at 15 wins, and Tanaka's going to do that by August. So I'm just saying, of course I hate wins, and I hate predicting them. But when you're on a bad team with a bad defense and a bad bullpen like Cliff Lee is, I mean, you're not going to win a lot of games. So, at this point, would I take Tanaka over Lee? I mean, I don't see anything changing with Tanaka. He's this good. You already have him over Verlander and Strasburg. and Cueto, which I would do too, was over Sale. I mean, I think you have him actually kind of right. Maybe I'd move him a spot, but I mean, it's not worth talking.
Will Tanaka win the Cy Young?
He might. He right now he's the leading candidate.
Well, wouldn't the leading candidate be Mark Burley? Come on, he leads the majors in wins and ERA.
It's not going to be Mark Burley.
I'm just saying, if we ended the season today, I mean,
Tanaka
you have to give Mark Burley a couple votes.
I don't have to give many votes. Tanaka is the number one starter in the American League on our player rater. Number one starter overall is Johnny Cueto, and one of them has an injury history. So, I mean, I wouldn't make Tanaka the number one guy, but I think he's right there.
He's unquestionably a top 10 starting pitcher. I really don't have any doubts. You think the second time around the league is going to be ugly?
Nope, not at all.
You think, and you're with me on this one, that opponents will continue to swing at those non-strikes against them. Coming into the start, it was over 60% of the time. What was it? I can't remember what that stat was.
Everybody's swinging and missing at all his stuff. He had 22. It matched the season high. 22 swings and misses against the Mets. Obviously, that's a strikeout-prone team. He also had 22 against the Orioles. His slider and his splitter, they're unhittable, and you can't tell what's coming at you. He threw 28 splitters. The Mets hit it to 8 outs and managed only 1 base runner. So, unbelievable numbers.
I can't believe I don't even research my own geeky stat when I'm thinking about it.
Well, it's this. You've been in Bristol a long time. By the way,
Richard's
a long
week, yeah.
Highest average fastball velocity among starters this season. Jordana Ventura is number 1, then Nate Eovaldi, and then Garrett Richards. Now, I hope they all stay healthy. They're all right-handed. They all throw hard. There's no durability questions in their background. But, we saw the stat the other day. I mean, it was like 4 or 5 of the top starters in fastball velocity over the last couple of years. Not just this year, but the last, 3 years. They're all hurt. So, or they've had Tommy John.
By the way, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was a clocked 100-mile-per-hour pitch thrown last night by Mr. Rafael Montero.
Yeah, what'd you think of his outing? Did you get to see it?
Yeah, look, I was impressed. I think he's got the skills to make it at this level. I certainly think he is worth the pickup.
Well, not in a 10-team. Come on, you wouldn't pick him up in a 10-team league.
I think there are going to be some matchups where he's going to be in your roster more often than not. In other words, more than half of his starts. I mean, if he's playing a kind of a rough offense that takes pitches, I'd be a little bit more concerned just because I don't think he's going to pitch that deep.
Saw comparisons on Twitter to Roy Oswalt. Obviously, it's a little early to know that for sure, but in the way he throws, what he throws, I don't know.
It was a little harder, though.
Does throw hard. I want to see a little bit more. Is there anything worse than buying razors? You got to drive to the store, find a parking spot, find the locked plastic razor fortress, and the one guy who has the key is on break. Then when you finally get to the register, it's $20. Madness! Don't put yourself through that. Join DollarShaveClub.com for a couple bucks a month. DollarShaveClub.com will ship amazing quality blades and other cool bathroom stuff right to your door. Every month, like clockwork, you get a package in the mail with everything you need for a great shave, not an everyday shaver. Join the club and opt for delivery every other month. They've got more than razors, too. You got to try their Dr. Carver's Easy Shave Butter. But what you really got to try, according to Jay, are the One Wipe Charlie's, the peppermint-infused butt wipes for men. So, right, Jay?
Seriously. Buy these things. They're fantastic.
So join everyone, including Jay, with the Fantasy Focus Baseball Podcast and the hundreds of thousands of guys who have upgraded to the smarter way to shave. Shave time, shave money. Join DollarShaveClub.com/baseball. That's DollarShaveClub.com/baseball. We're going to try to do now a closer carousel every day because there's always something to talk about with these guys. So
the closer carousel.
Let me just say this about the New York Mets, because this defines the dysfunction. Kyle Farnsworth got their save on Monday, conventionally. Okay, it wasn't like, he lucked into it. All right, it's not like Randy Wolf's save last night. You didn't even know Randy Wolf. Most people did not you, but most people didn't even know Randy Wolf had found a job in the majors. He's on the Miami Marlins. He signed yesterday, and he got a 3-inning save in a 13-3 game. But and we don't need to discuss Randy Wolf. He'll be in the rotation. Kyle Farnsworth saved their game on Monday. On Tuesday, Terry Collins, who doesn't seem to have a clue what he's doing with his bullpen, or his starting rotation when it comes to Mejia and stuff like that, he announces that he's going to go to a closer committee, and Familia will be in it, and Valverde will be in it, and, for all we know, Jesse Orosco's coming back. Farnsworth got released on Wednesday night. He got flat-out released. They didn't trade him. They could have. You don't think somebody would have traded, given them a low-A prospect for Kyle Farnsworth? He'd be Philly's setup man. A bunch of teams are going to – Farnsworth will have a job by the end of the weekend. I guarantee it. He's not that bad. Anyway.
And he'll be angry about a former team.
Every team's his former team in a way.
No, I know, but I don't think he's happy about this.
I just don't understand how you can release your closer, even if he's only in a committee. He was not pitching poorly. Who's going to lead the Mets in saves? I wrote it in my blog today. I named 2 guys.
Wait, is that in my email? Hold on. I got to go back and check.
It's not. I didn't email you.
Hey!
Because you don't even get the emails I send you, so I'm not going to bother sending you any anymore. Who do you think leads the Mets in saves?
I'm going back to where I started, and it's Jeurys Familia. Now, I will point out, do you know it's debatable here. Do you know who's actually been one of the most productive Mets relievers in the past 2 or 3 weeks?
Why don't you is it the Torres kid?
No.
Don't say Valverde. It can't be Valverde.
Yes.
How dumb are they?
No, I'm not saying that it is Valverde. I am saying that who has pitched effectively in the past 2 to 3 weeks. Jose Valverde has been as good as any of the guys they have in that bullpen.
Daisuke.
No, Daisuke's been terrible.
Daisuke came in relief in the 5th inning 2 days ago. I don't see how he can be their closer. Have some consistency with these guys. That's dumb. We spent way too much time on this dumb team. The Angels, this is actually smart. Now, Mike Scioscia didn't say who his closer would be. Ernesto Frieri came into the season. He's very good when he's on. He's pitched so well over the past month. But he's going to go back and forth between Joe Smith and Frieri. And in the last 2 games when they swept the Phillies, which isn't all that tough, he switched the order. I like it.
Yeah.
You give hitters a different look. Smith is better against lefties. Frieri is more of a strikeout guy. So Scioscia finally gets it now. You don't need to have one guy. You've got 2 guys who can get outs in the 9th inning. It's not a different animal. And it works. So I actually think Joe Smith's going to continue to be in this picture with Frieri. I don't know when Scioscia will stop, but good for him. Good for him.
Do you think he picked in this game, putting them in these particular spots based on the fact that Frieri is a fly ball, home run risk kind of guy? So he put him in against the players who were not big power hitters at the top of the lineup. And in the 9th, when the power bats, Ryan Howard, Marlon Byrd, and Dominic Brown were in, that Joe Smith came in because he's a little less risky.
Don't give him too much credit. I think it was a lefty-righty thing to some
So you think
degree.
it was kind of like I'm just flipping a coin tonight?
I think he just decided I'm just going to switch him. I don't think it was because of who was up, the stadium he was in, how they were throwing. I just think he wanted to change it.
I think there's something to it. Actually, and I don't remember who this was. Somebody actually had tweeted this about that Mike Scioscia is going by the straight bullpen by committee here and thinks there might be something scientific to it. I gotta try and figure out what it is.
I don't want to give him too much credit because I applaud him, but I also don't think he's thinking about it as much as you and I just did in the last 30 seconds. Briefly, because we have a lot to do before we get to Mark Simon. Jason Grilli wants the Pittsburgh closing job back. He could be activated any day now, or he might go on a rehab assignment. That's going to be a very interesting situation because Mark Melanson is doing a good job as closer, and he's probably just better than Grilli. He was better last year. He's better now. That's going to be interesting. And in Arizona, Addison Reed can't lose the job because Brad Ziegler blew yesterday's game and was terrible. And people started tweeting, and I love this, when they tweet, about all the different Fuenteses that we have. But that's not what K-Rod had. When a closer comes in a 1-1 game in the 9th inning, that's not a situation of I shouldn't be here, right? Don't we? You agree with me on that? He should be used in that situation.
When he comes into...
When you come into a 1-1 game in the 9th inning, as K-Rod did.
We defined that. We definitely defined that when we were talking about the Dante Fuentes, is that if it's a tie game and the closer comes in the 9th inning, that's actually smart management.
That's good management. That's
regardless
of
home road. By the way, that home road thing, that's ridiculous. I'm sure you're probably with me on that one, where you save the closer for extra innings because you're on the road and you want to save the guy for the save situation. Ridiculous.
Yeah, let's save our closer for inning 14 and
which might not happen.
Which might not happen. Look, they don't know what they're doing. I think it's pretty clear. So that's it for the closer carousel. Now daily notes time, where we take a look at starting pitchers. Now there are day games today, so you might be listening after. On Friday's show, we'll give a full weekend preview. We'll name a couple guys for Friday.
We'll toss a guy for Friday. We got to do the page. Page turn is at 12:35 today.
Okay. Well, this show is going to be posted well before that. Who do you like of the unowned crew today? I don't want to talk anymore. Jason Hamill. He was rained out yesterday, and we both like him. Wow, look at this matchup. Yankees-Mets matchup. I don't know much about either guy. I know DeGrom.
You know about Chase Whitley now.
How? How do I know about you?
Well, because as we were watching my Zach Wheeler pick the other day get blown up, you and I were sitting across the table talking about Mr. Chase
you
Whitley.
looked him up. And
I told you it was 13 career starts professionally and something like 100 relief appearances professionally. And this was more of an experiment than anything when they put him in the rotation last year.
Somehow these teams are running out of starters. And like Matt Shoemaker.
The Yankees are a lot more than people are talking.
Yeah, Sabathia now, degenerative knee. I don't know when he's coming back. Do you?
Yeah. Well, I don't think this is a minimum stay by any means. I'm scared when I see that. And that's the other one that it was so many innings, so many pitches, so much of a workload over the years that, there's legitimate cause for concern.
Tell us why you like Tyler Skaggs so much. I do too, but tell us why you do.
Yeah, Skaggs now, his command wavered in those couple of starts before the Toronto one, but he's a ground ball guy with a two-seam fastball. Definitely a remade pitcher. He worked on his delivery. That was a big key. But it's a home game for a young guy in a pitcher-friendly ballpark, and he's facing a Rays team that wavers between home and road. And the point I've been making is that when they're on the road, they're a much more ordinary offense. If Skaggs comes out here with the command he had in Toronto, this could be an outstanding outing, and I'm going to take him based on the high upside. Not a lot of Ks, but I think this is a good matchup. By the way, we should mention about the doubleheaders here. There's one. San Diego at Cincinnati, you have a double opportunity here in terms of the hitting stats.
Yeah, but would you use San Diego's awful hitters? I mean, that's a reasonable question here because they're facing – now, one of the outings is Johnny Cueto. The other is a lefty, Jeff Francis, the former Rocky, who really isn't very good. Would you use Will Venable, knowing he's got to face Cueto on a lefty? Would you use Quentin? I don't know if that helps because Cueto's so good.
It might if you're in a deep enough league and you need to stream your hitters. There's the possibility of this. Now, I will be also clear that in one of my daily leagues, I went through and I compared everybody I had to who was out there on waivers, and I did not pick a single player up from this doubleheader. And I'd probably lean on the Cincinnati guys. But it's 2 games. It's 2 games worth.
It is, but, I mean, Cueto's going like 8 innings and 1 run. I mean, every outing with him is awesome. So, I mean, Ian Kennedy's going to get good innings. Yeah. I mean, I like Ian Kennedy because I don't think he'll get pounded, and I don't care about the win potential.
Who pitches better in this game, San Diego's pitchers or Cincy's pitchers? We don't know for sure about Cincinnati's pitchers. It's Cueto and possibly Alfredo Simon. We haven't decided yet on that. But Jeff Francis is supposed to try to get to Cincinnati in time for the second game and be the 26th man. So we really don't know who's pitching game 2.
I mean, I want Cueto no matter what.
But who's going to be the better in terms of the pitching on either side? That pertains to the offense here. I think San Diego could pitch well here.
I think they will. This isn't like once in a while you can see a guy owned in every league getting lit. This ain't that time to me.
Right.
So I think Cueto's pretty much a lock. I don't think it's like Jose Fernandez last Friday when I said he'd get lit, and he did. I'd use Evaldi today at San Francisco.
Yep, me too.
Matt Cain. In fact, I might even use Evaldi over Matt Cain. I don't know how. Miami scored a ton of runs off Paul Maholm. A lot of people might have used Paul Maholm yesterday because they thought, Miami doesn't hit on the road. That's how you get burned there.
Well, he's just not very good.
That's part of the problem. Wow, your Donovan Shores going today. Would you use Phil Hughes today? He has pitched okay, and based on the fact that the other pitcher's Clay Buchholz, and I don't know what we're getting, 6 earned runs or 1. With him, you never know. I think I might use Phil Hughes.
There's something I'd like to see about this one. What's the career history against Boston? This is what bothers me about Phil Hughes, and we talk so much about the track record of pitchers. One thing I want to make very clear is when a team faces a guy so often, which means division rivals, if the record is poor recently, I tend to shy from him. Phil Hughes has faced the Red Sox so often, I have to imagine the Red Sox have a good history against him. I can't use him just based on that. But his command has been good lately. Very, very good. No walks.
He's won 4 consecutive starts. Now,
right, and the walks are down.
The walks are down. The home runs are down. Against Boston hitters that are currently on the Red Sox team, they're batting .311 off him with a .945 OPS.
See, that's really bothersome.
It's bad. I mean,
that's Pedroia, the one time. Remember, we talked about Felix Hernandez the other day where I said I kind of poo-pooed the idea of Felix Hernandez's numbers against the Rays. He just doesn't face them a lot. Phil Hughes faced the Red Sox a lot. They know him. They're familiar with him.
I have a feeling this is a 6-5 game, and I don't want to eat either of the pitchers. That's what I've decided.
I'm with you on
Ortiz batting .409 lifetime against Phil Hughes. He's like a 50-50 shot. He homers in this game. So I'm gonna
50-50 on a homer.
I'm just saying. I mean, he's hit 4 homers in 2 days, and he's hit him off Phil Hughes before. So
Oh, you want some real fun? So go to Phil Hughes' split stats and then click on the Red Sox to get the year-by-year rundown of 14.63 ERA in 2011, 2.03 in 2012. He was good then, and 17.36 in 2013. 5.70 for his career.
I'm going to sit Phil Hughes. How about that?
That's bold.
Simon says. Simon says.
Boom. Now we bring in our regular Thursday guest, Mark Simon. Does a great job. It's one of the highlights of our week. He's from the Stats and Info Group, and he knows a lot. Mark, welcome to the show, and tell us all you know about Howie Kendrick and why he's doing so well. Not just the stolen bases, but his hitting approach seems to have changed.
Bonjour, comment allez-vous?
Nice. Well said.
I'm practicing my French because the Rangers are playing the Canadians. All right.
Oh,
Boo.
right, that's right.
Boo.
Boo to everything there.
What sport is that? I've never heard of it.
I hope you don't have Rick Nash in your fantasy hockey playoff leagues.
Toe Nash.
Toe Nash. Wow. Okay. Now
Howie
there's
Kendrick.
blast from the past.
Let's get going. All right. So I thought this was interesting. I wrote about this the other day. I did this article. We talked about hard hit average the last couple of weeks. Howie Kendrick has changed his approach to get himself more doubles, it seems like. And the way that he's doing that is he's really driving the ball to right field. If you look at his spray chart comparing last year and the year before that to this year, he has a crazy proportion of his hits like deep in right field, in the right center field gap. He's crushing the ball there. And I don't know specifically what he's done. I remember that Torrey Hunter did something similar that I wrote about last year. He made the adjustment because he was moving to the 2-hole. I'm not sure what Kendrick did. I'm guessing that Don Baylor had some sort of influence on him where they found something where he said, I'm gonna start driving the ball to the right field wall and to the right center field gap. He's taking outside pitches and he's hitting them where they're thrown, and he's getting really good wood on them. The home runs aren't there, but the batting average certainly is. He's hitting .305 at the moment, and that's pretty good.
But we want to see those home runs, not the doubles. Doubles don't count in rotisserie leagues. We want 1 jillion homers.
You got the same issue with Matt Adams for different reasons.
Oh, don't bring up Matt Adams.
Yeah,
here.
Matt Adams.
That board bet's not going to go well.
He's basically just changed his hitting approach to deal with shifts. I'm sure you've talked about this at some point.
Mm-hmm.
That he's the leader in soft hit average, because what he's doing whenever they shift him is he's trying to dink the ball to left field. And it was funny when I tweeted a reference to it. Like 6 Cardinal fans immediately said, where'd the home runs go? And I don't know that Kendrick is necessarily doing that, because I don't think he's dealing with shifts. But Matt Adams is. That's an interesting way to connect two people who ideally have nothing to do with each other.
But, look, I think Kendrick's adjustments are legit here, and I moved him up quite a bit in the rankings this week. He's number 4 in our player rater so far among second basemen, but 7th. I put him 7th among second basemen, which to me was a very big increase. By the way, still over D. Gordon.
And he's only 30, so it's not like he's 35, 36, and this is some sort of, adjustment to stay in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be an adjustment of smarts. Actually, I'm trying to reach out and find out more about it. I'm hopeful that maybe next week I'll have something on that.
So, speaking of the older players, since you just mentioned the 35 and 36-year-olds, among the older ones who's performed well this year is Tim Hudson. Hudson, the number 6 starting pitcher on our player rater so far, which is remarkable when you think about the guys we put in the top 10 class before the year. 4 wins this year and 4 walks. What is up with Tim Hudson? I mean, I'm always worried about, is he going to give us the full year after last season? What's going on with Tim Hudson?
I feel very confident that he's going to put together a really good season this year, and I'll explain why. The Giants seem to have found something, and I wrote about this too, on the defensive end. They have gone to shifting 3 times more often than they did last season. They're not necessarily a team that's going crazy with it, like the Astros or even the Yankees to an extent. They're like middle of the pack in shifts this year. I think they were 13th when I looked yesterday. But what it's done is it's really improved their ground ball defense. Their ground ball defense, I wrote that they ranked 2nd or 3rd in the majors in the percentage of ground balls that they've converted into outs. And Tim Hudson has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of that. And that's his style, right? That's what he gets. He gets ground balls. Opponents this year, when hitting a ground ball against Tim Hudson, are hitting 164. The Giants' infield defense last year, I think it was like -7 runs saved combined. This year, they're +6. So I think the shift is helping. And if you factor in just shifts, they rate among the very best teams at utilizing the shift this year, despite the fact that they use it the 13th most. I think with the shift, you have to find what works for you. They have a really good shortstop. I think they feel pretty good about that. They're rotating first baseman all over the place, but you don't necessarily deal with that in the shifts. They figured out what works for them. They're shifting probably the most extreme guys, and it's helping them. And I think Tim Hudson will benefit from that all season. And as a result, that wasn't necessarily why I took him in my fantasy league, but I made it a point to get him because I think you combine that with the fact that he's in the right ballpark to pitch well, I think he's going to have a very good year.
Amazingly, just the walk improvement. I mean, I've obviously underranked him at number 49 among starting pitchers. I mean, look, it's Tim Hudson, so it's very hard for me to say I think he's a trustworthy top 40 starter, but he certainly seems to have something.
I think he feels confident that when he's at home, he can just throw the ball over the plate and let people hit it. And opponents this year have a 205 BABIP against him in the 4 games that he's pitched in AT&T Park.
You mentioned that word Yankees, and you've woken up Robot, who has a question for you. Yeah, Yangervis Solarte, he is great, is he not, Mark?
You know what I like about him? Well, I don't like that he hit the home run yesterday, but I guess I'll have to kind of live with that. The thing that I think is there are 2 things that are really impressive about him, and that I think you can glean from taking a closer look at the way that he's hit. His heat map is pretty cool in that he has really good plate coverage. He can hit the inside pitch, he can hit the pitch over the middle of the plate, and he can hit the outside pitch, particularly against right-handed pitching. And we're certainly going to see a lot of right-handed pitching over the course of the season. He can reach out, he can get hits on pitches that are out of the strike zone. He has a little bit of a weak spot up top, but not really. He's fairly good there. He's good on pitches that are at the bottom of the zone. It's not like he's a guy that's just hitting mistakes. He's hitting everything. And the strikeouts and the walks against right-handed pitching, 6 strikeouts, 15 walks this season. This guy's a find, and I think in the end he's certainly going to be more valuable to the Yankees than Kelly Johnson and Brian Roberts are. How good is he going to? Is he going to be a batting champ? I don't know if he's going to be a batting champ, but I think he's going to be a regular. I think he's going to be someone that if you got him in the first week or 2 in your fantasy league, I think chances are you're going to do well in your fantasy league.
You know,
that's pretty good.
By definition, Mark, his heat map is not cool.
No,
it's the opposite of cool.
Very hot. It's the opposite of cool. Exactly.
I just like bringing up Solarte because I must note that that's probably that's one of the few calls I've apparently gotten right this year. I said Solarte was bona fide. That's the final number on him. That's most interesting to me. It's just he's making a lot of contact, but I don't think he hits this well. What do you think his final average and homers are? I'd love both yours and Eric's take on that.
All right, how about 280, 290? He covers the plate really well, and as you said, he doesn't swing and miss. His miss rate against righties is like 9%. His miss rate overall is 12%.
Yep.
It's not like that's suddenly going to skyrocket to like 20.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure they'll find weaknesses, but 12 will become 15. It's not going to, as I said, it's not going to become 20. He's better than Eduardo Nunez, right?
He's leading the most out of this right now. He's the number 6 third baseman in all fantasy, ahead of David Wright, Evan Longoria, Pedro Alvarez. I don't think he's going to finish there, but could he end up a top 10 third baseman? If he hits 300 with 12, 14 home runs, which he certainly looks like he's capable of, yeah, he could end up a top 10 third baseman. That's hard to believe.
We need to tweak the heat map because between one of the 3 of us, because as I said, particularly against right-handed pitching, the plate coverage is just it's really good.
He's been phenomenal.
By the way,
and he might get
ESPN Twitter, if I can just give that a shifty plug there.
He might also gain that nice position eligibility advantage, third, second, and outfield possibly, and he could pick up short at some point. That's what I find most interesting is that you could just kind of shuffle him around. All right, let's look at another switch hitter who has the Yankee ties here, who has not been as good this year. But Mark, you hinted before we started that maybe there's some hope for Nick Swisher. Is there? Please.
Yeah, Nick Swisher is in this this really bad slump. It's the last couple of weeks that has dropped his batting average to 199 this season. He has 2 home runs, 36 strikeouts in 39 games. But if you take a closer look, the last 2 weeks for Swisher, he is 6 for 37, but he's hitting the ball hard. He has, by our count, I think it's 11. Let me see here. I think it's 11 hard hit balls. He is making him and Justin Smoke are the 2 guys that are making a ton of loud outs. Nick Swisher has in this stretch, he's got 5 warning track / really close to warning track outs where he's drilled the ball and he hasn't gotten rewarded. I think that he will eventually start to get rewarded for that. He's not a 200 hitter. If you remember when the Yankees got him, he was coming off a 203 season with the White Sox. And I remember Brian Cashman told a story, actually, when he came to ESPN, where he said that his statistical advisor, this guy Michael Fishman, said, look, this guy hits the ball hard. There's no reason to think that 203 was legit. And sure enough, for the Yankees, it wasn't. I'm wondering if he's hurt by the ballpark in Cleveland a little bit. But I don't think he's 199. I think if you hang on to him, you'll find him to be something closer to what he usually is.
You know, of those 2 hard hit, the first baseman you mentioned who had high numbers of hard hit balls in play, which are you more confident in turning it around? If you had to pick between Smoke and Swisher, I mean, I'll tell you this: I've got Smoke ranked higher, the 2 of them. I have more confidence in him. I'm just a Smoke lover.
I claimed Smoke in my league the other day. So I guess that might tell you the answer. The difference is that he's on a decent streak the last week or 2, and Swisher's not. Although Smoke now has cooled off, he's 0 for 7 the last 2 games. Well, you know what? Track record on that. I don't think you can go wrong if you go with Swisher. I really don't.
I would take Swisher.
I think if you wanted to take Smoke, slight advantage maybe, but I don't think you would go wrong if you said, I'm going to stick with Swisher.
I'm relying on Swisher. You know, Mark, you and I used to do birthdays on our old show, our old podcast, which was really good. And a couple guys that were born today on May 15th are having really good years. Michael Brantley, the Indians, who left the game early yesterday, but he should be fine. Brian Dozier, looks like a 2020 middle infielder. Justin Morneau, Josh Beckett, and the great George Brett was born today. More walks and strikeouts.
Yep.
So I was thinking about this. Is John? How many guys have been $40 starter relievers in auction leagues? Just him and Eckersley?
I don't think the relievers might have gotten up to that level. Maybe back then they did. But yeah, he certainly had. I think he made a case for well, maybe not number 1 overall among both starters and relievers, but certainly very close.
Yep. All right, so two nuggets on birthday, guys. We'll just run through them quickly. Michael Brantley has a weakness that can be exposed, and I think you want to be careful about that. He's a little vulnerable to the outside pitch. So while the numbers are good, 279, 7 home runs, keep in mind that as long as he has I guess the good thing is that if you wanted to make the point, last year this wasn't a vulnerability for him. So I hope maybe it becomes something better, and maybe he becomes a 300 hitter. But you might want to be a little concerned about that. Josh Beckett. Josh Beckett has like a sub-2 ERA. Today's his birthday. He's a guy I would only start if you're in a weekly league. Start him when he's pitching at home. I think he's a little shaky on the road. His ERA and FIP don't match up well this year. The FIP indicates that his ERA should be in the mid-3s, and right now he's a 238. 238 ERA, 199 opponent's batting average. Looks really good in Dodger Stadium, as most people do. I would be a little cautious starting him on the road. And this doesn't have anything to do with fantasy, but I did think it was cool. 2 things on Brian Dozier. He leads them, as of the other day, he leads the majors in UBR, which is Fangraph's ultimate base running rating, as you mentioned, the 2020 thing. And the other thing that he's really good at, and this, again, if you took him in your defensive fantasy league, I think he would do rather well, because he covers a lot of ground. He makes the diving play really well, I would say, as well as just about any second baseman that you would see. He's made a nice conversion from shortstop to second base, and a number of people, including a scout, told me that he's pretty good.
By the way,
defensive fantasy league besides us?
I was just looking at our standings. I don't know who else does, but none of us are doing well.
Yeah, don't mention, please.
Tristan was tied for last.
Someone
hey, I've got Colby Rasmus.
Fantasy. They need to write in so that next week we can talk about this on Thursday.
Oh, Mark, please don't mention Colby Rasmus' season. I picked him. No,
I mean, what does Colby Rasmus have anything?
He's at a. I think he's the worst individual player in the league. He's got like a minus 10.
Wow.
Who's the worst?
Yeah. Torrey Hunter was like -9 a couple of days ago.
But he wasn't picked. Was he picked by this?
He should have been the wild card.
Just to explain really quickly, we play defensive fantasy league. We have 10 players. Each of us has 10 players. Tristan's in the league. We have like 14 owners. We have a draft. The only statistic in the league is defensive runs saved. And as you said, all three of us suck this year.
Well,
that's a quick explanation of how we play. We're kooky enough. I actually run a defensive stats conference
cut and
call,
dry as it gets.
And I write a defensive stats piece each week that you can find on ESPN.com. Shameless plug.
All right. Which I read, by the way.
He's a company man.
So
are we at au revoir?
I'm sorry, what? Couldn't hear you over the sound.
Have we reached au revoir yet?
We've reached it. It's time to go. We thank Mark Simon, as always, for his Thursday contributions to our fine and awesome show.
Go Rangers.
Mark.
Everything is awesome.
I don't know if I can.
Boo Rangers.
Can we
Boo Rangers.
like the Rangers victory song instead?
Stanley Cup hockey's awesome. These games have been awesome this week, honestly. These Game 7.
I'm not playing this out again. No.
The code!
It's overkill.
The code!
Well, I can say it. I don't care if you play it. But that's all. We're done for Thursday's show. Thanks to everybody who contributed. That's Mark, that's Tristan, that's Jay, and myself, that's Eric. Check us out on Twitter. And by the way, speaking of Twitter, we're going to be taking your Twitter questions instead of emails on Friday's show. So you can send us Sultan the Stat. He can go through them, and me as well at Karabell ESPN. And we're going to take as many Twitter questions as time allows for Friday's show, which can be a little bit longer.
Hashtag 06010.
That'll do it, too.
The hashtag doesn't work. You have to do the 06010.
Oh, well, then there you go. Hashtag the 06.
If you do 06010, it won't work as a hashtag.
All right.
Wow, how do you know that?
Twitter, because I've tried it.
Yeah. Very well.
All right, so use that hashtag thingy, and we'll find out all the Twitter stuff, and we'll do it on Friday's show, and we'll also preview the weekend. So that's it. We're done for Thursday. Awesome show. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow.
The theme song for the Fantasy Focus was created and performed by Eric Hutchinson. Check out more of his music at erichutchinson.com. Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Focus. For more great podcasts, log on to the iTunes Music Store or Pod Center at espnradio.com.